Welcome, everyone. It's Monday. It's a beautiful day, and I'm glad that I'm here. And I'm glad you're here, too. Get this, Twitter isn't working for me today. Everything else is, but Twitter is not. Well, anywho, did you notice? Did you notice what you did this weekend? Did you catch yourself? Did you pay attention? Did you observe yourself this weekend? Did you notice where you saw the law? Did you notice? This is the question. Because what's the point of noticing? The point of noticing is teaching you to always be aware deliberately. This is what it teaches. Always be aware deliberately. You see, because we are always aware. You can't not be aware. We know this. But we can be aware unwittingly, which means we know we're alive. But that's as far as we know. But to know, to be aware deliberately means, wait a minute, I saw what I did there. That was the principle of ... That was correspondence. Ooh, that was polarity. Ooh, that's the principle of rhythm, you know? Because when you're catching those things, it means you are, you're walking and you're living in it, and sooner rather than later, it becomes second nature. It becomes natural to you. Meaning, when you see it and you say, oh, but I don't like that thing about my existence, let me change it. So, walking and practicing being deliberately aware is one of the most beautiful things you can do for yourself. It is one of the most beautiful things you can do for yourself. Because now you're not walking through the world just being blind. I don't know how this is happening to me. I just don't get it. Why me, Lord? You see, you don't walk through the world like that anymore. You walk through the world knowing all cylinders are firing on go. That's how you walk through the world. And that is what is beautiful about it. That is what is freeing about it. You walk through the world and you spread compassion. Why compassion instead of judgment? Because you understand. Because you understand what is happening. You understand that the way a person behaves or the way a person speaks, you understand. And you become more gentle, more compassionate with people. Oh, yes, indeed. Nobody has to know that you're compassionate. Nobody has to know you're compassionate. You can be compassionate from a distance, you know? With your simple prayer. It's quite like if we are the opposite. I don't like that word. Opposite, I don't like it. Because it isn't. Nothing is ever opposite. Oh, nothing is ever opposite. Cause and effect. Cause and effect. Every cause has its effect, and every effect has its cause. The principle of correspondence, as within, so without. It's never opposite. It can't be opposite, right? So when you're going through your day and you're looking at something and you're saying, well, that's not what I want. Why is it? You will have been practicing checking your mental attitude. You will have practiced checking your mental mood. Why is that important? That's why I asked you. Did you notice? Did you notice where your mental attitude was? Once you notice where the mental attitude is, pardon me, once you notice where your mental attitude is, what do you do from there? Well, you know exactly how things will turn out. That's what you know. But if we don't practice on a daily basis, a moment by moment basis, you would say, but Angela, that's a lot of hard work to always check your mental attitude. It only appears as hard work in the beginning. It only appears as hard work in the beginning. Because it's not something that you have practiced. It's not something you're used to just yet. But the more that you practice, you will find that you just walk through the day and you, oh, mental attitude check, and you flip it and you turn it around and you say, I see my life. That's not where I want to be, but this is. And you change your mental mood on the spot. And you know what happens when you change your mental mood and you persist in changing your mental mood to the mood you want. Because we don't always stay in the mood. Think about this for a moment. You're in the mood, and once that mood is fulfilled, what do? Move to another one. We're constantly moving through moods, mental attitudes, constantly. Back and forth, we're constantly moving through them. But we can't sustain a mood. But what we can do is deliberately select it over and over so that it becomes your habit to select it over and over, thereby appearing to be, what's the word? Sustained. Do you see it? Habitually, we always go back to a particular mood because we've always chosen that mood. We always go back to it. Persistently, consistently, right? So when we go back to the mood over and over and over and over again, it appears to be sustained. When in actuality, it is just the habit. So the key here is, what type of habit are you making? What type of habit are you making? Because we're going to make them. We're always going to make habits because that's what we are. But to be deliberate is the key. Neville Goddard says it this way. He says, you are the operant power. Being the operant power means you deliberately choose the trajectory in which you want your life to go in. And the way to choose the trajectory is to continually choose it so that it becomes a habit for you. This is why he says naturalness. It takes on the tones of reality. When something takes on the tones of reality, It means you've been doing it and doing it and doing it and doing it. So it's just natural to you. So when he says, you get into a state akin to sleep, you don't just get into a state akin to sleep because you want something and you're trying to do a technique. You become aware of when you are in a state akin to sleep. I'll say it to you again. You become aware of when you are in a state akin to sleep. Why? Because we are always in a state akin to sleep. We just don't know. You know that phrase, Earth to George, Earth to George. What are you doing? Wool gathering? They were off in a different place. They were off in a different place. You had to snap them back to reality to be in front of you so they could be aware that you were there again. But they were off somewhere else. That is a state akin to sleep. Just not a deliberate one. A deliberate one is when you choose and you say, I want to bring this thing about. So let me get into this mental mood. And just rest in it for a moment. What a day for a daydream, right? A daydream, but deliberate. So now you know that if you deliberately practice that state akin to sleep, going in that state of sleep over and over and over again, it's not that you're going into it over and over and over again. It is that you become aware of when you're in it so that you can make the most of it. You can be effective with it. The fervent prayer of a righteous man availeth much. The fervent prayer of a righteous man availeth much. So every time you get into the state akin to sleep, it's fervent. You go there and it's like, yeah, this is where I want to be. Righteous means you're putting your mind where you want it to be. Right thinking, right consciousness. Not right as in wrong, opposite, but right as in this is where I'm choosing to be. This is the right path for me. And you get into that reverie, that state. Right? You get into it deliberately. And when you get into it deliberately, it availeth much. It means you're making the most of it. You're making it worthwhile so that you're not, quote unquote, imagining things that you don't want. You're only imagining the things that you do want. That is what being deliberate is. But you see, we take these things and we say, oh, that's a great technique to try. Let me try doing robotic affirmations. What? That's why I'm asking you, did you notice? Did you notice from what mental attitude you were living from? Did you notice? If you popped off this weekend, wait, I think the new term the young people are using now is crash out. So if you crashed out, did you notice before you crashed out? Did you notice in the middle of the crash out? Or did you notice after the crash out? Which stage were you at? Because if you can decipher where you were, when you felt the crash out coming on, you were like, oh, that's a mental mood I don't want to be a part of. Let me flip it and reverse it. Where do I want to go? What mental mood do I want to have instead of that one? Or were you partway through your crash out and said to yourself, oh my, what is this? This is not where I want to be. And you switched it right there. And you changed from crash out to something else. Or did you notice after you crashed out, you're like, ah, shoot. That was my old behavior, man. That's not what I do anymore. Ah, shoot. Did you notice? Did you notice? That's the part. That is the part right there. Did you notice? Because when you notice, it means now that you have become deliberately aware of your situation, deliberately aware of your mental mood. You weren't caught off guard. Nobody jumped out of the car and said, surprise! Nobody did that. Why not? Because you were aware of your mental mood. But you see, so many people are looking for a technique because they want something, not realizing that as within, so without. See, when you want something, that is a different mental mood from recognizing that something is required. And you said, oh, well, let me get into my mental mood and do what? Experience in imagination what I would be doing in reality if I were the man or the woman I wanted to be. Do you see the difference? This is what is absolutely beautiful about being deliberate. Because it will help you to be deliberate, not just in your mental mood, because you know everything stems from the mental mood. When you're deliberate from your mental mood, then the thoughts are deliberate thoughts. The words are deliberate words. So too are the actions. They are deliberate, right? I'm sure we've more than likely heard the term premeditated. Hmm? Premeditated. I'm going to say it again. Premeditated. To meditate is to ponder on something before you do it. It's meditation. Premeditating is to be deliberate. You thought about it. There was a mental mood. And from that mental mood, you saw, you experienced in imagination what you would be doing in reality. And here we are thinking that the court of law is somehow new. No, it is a reflection of the principles nonetheless. Because it is the only way by which we live. By the principles. That's why I told you last week, you only ever get it right. As within, so without. So do you notice what you're walking around with on the inside? Are you walking around with the knowledge that, wait, I know the principles. I can apply any principle to change my life. You also notice how you, when you apply the principles, you don't say to yourself, I wonder how I can manipulate this person to do what I want them to do. Because then you would notice that mental mood. And when you notice that mental mood, well, as within, so without, what are you doing to yourself? Hmm? Why do you think the golden rule exists? It wasn't a coincidence. The golden rule, do unto others as you'd have them do unto you, is what the golden rule is. Now, in Barbados, we say, don't wish for nobody what you wouldn't want for yourself. So if you don't want it for you, you want it for somebody else. This is why Neville Goddard says, be noble in those thoughts. If I would want an ideal life for myself, well, then I would want an ideal life for someone else. But you see where we get caught up in the judgment? If you would notice, well, they don't deserve that. Not realizing that when you stop to judge whether they deserve or not, you now put within your own self not having. You think you're withholding it from them, when in actuality, as within, so without, you are only withholding it from yourself. And if you are withholding it from yourself, oh, what will you experience? That is what happens. And I'm not telling you this from atop a pedestal. I'm telling you this from right here in these here trenches that we call life. I have to check that mental mood. And I'm getting to the point where now it's like I'm doing it on autopilot. That's the point. You do it so much that it becomes who you are, that you're constantly in a state of, oh, am I in the right mental mood? Because what it does is it helps us. Because when you do that and you check your mental mood, remember, as within, so without. So now if your mental mood is one of love and compassion, thoughtfulness, I wonder what you're going to, quote unquote, because remember, as within, so without, what will you put into the world? What will you put into the world? Well, that depends. What's within you? So if you deliberately know what is within, well then Annie George says prophecy. You begin, because as within, so without. You know whatever is within is what is projected out on the outside. Which now means, oh look, who's a prophet? Who can predict? You, because you know as within, so without. That's what it is. Through the art of self-observation on a daily basis. And remember, to observe oneself does not mean we judge the self. It means we simply observe the self to make sure that you are in the right mental attitude. But Angela, what if I'm schizophrenic and I'm hearing voices? Thoughts do not originate on their own. Thoughts follow the mental mood. So if you are walking around and you're walking around in a state of fear, a state of agitation, a state of worry, what do you think the tone of voice you will hear in the back of your head? We all hear voices, but they emerge from the mental mood. They emerge from the present mental mood. Hmm. They emerge from the present mental mood. But that present mental mood was a mood that was practiced and has now become a habitual mental mood. This is why you keep hearing the same thing all the time in your own head. Not that there's something, quote unquote, wrong with you. You know how despairing that is? To constantly hear, you got problems, there's something wrong with you. Because now the more you hear that, what happens? It now becomes your inner voice. Oh my God, there's something wrong with me. And what happens? As within, so without. And we perpetuate it. And because we don't notice that we perpetuate it, what do? Continually perpetuate it. This is why one must start practicing being deliberate, deliberately choosing your mental attitude. Deliberately choose the mental attitude, and your thoughts, your words, and your actions will follow suit. Why? Scripture says every seed after its own kind, or every fruit after its own kind. As within, so without. You can plant oranges. You're only going to get oranges. You can't plant oranges and reap strawberries. So you will never get the opposite of what you are. And the way to know what you say you are is to observe yourself to see the mental mood that you presently occupy. I trust that this makes sense. If you're walking in the hallway at school, you're walking down the hallway at work. Oh, look, here come Betty Sue. And if you're from the islands, I can't stand this heifer. Oh, is that your mental attitude? What happens from that mental attitude? Well, Betty Sue can only respond because she can feel you. We can all feel each other. So Betty Sue can only respond in kind. Now, if Betty Sue is practicing being deliberate, ooh, she might say a little prayer for you, right? To help you out, to elevate you from where you're at mentally. You see how we can help one another? So don't be out here in these streets talking about, oh my God, trust me, I learned this one the hard way. Oh God. I learned it the hard way. And I keep telling you, only one thing in life is meant to be hard, and life isn't it. Life is not meant to be hard. Only one thing is. And I'm going to let that hover because there may be young people about. So don't ask your parents what that means. You're not ready yet. But that's what I want you to grasp. You're walking and there's a bully. Now, if you get up in the morning and you dread that bully and you fear that bully, where are your thoughts? Your thoughts are on who? A bully. If your thoughts are on the bully and how to avoid the bully, what is within you? The bully. So how do you get rid of the bully? Jump them before they jump you? No. Get into the mind's eye. What kind of ideal situation would you like to be in? So when you turn your attention deliberately towards the kind of experience you want to have, you say, man, I want to walk down the hallway. Hey, girl, what's up? It's a good day, isn't it? Or however the young people talk about kicking it and crashing out and this and the other. You know how you talk because you young people. right? But you cannot avoid the bully by thinking the thoughts of the bully, because that is from fear. But if you should walk in a state of boldness, ain't nobody dope as me. I'm just so fresh and so clean, clean. If that is your mental attitude that you habitually choose, then sooner rather than later, the bully, as if by, oh, it's magic, disappears. And this is what Neville Goddard means when he says, without having to lift a finger to make it so. It is all in the mental attitude. All in the mental attitude is where it is. I told you about that young lady that I encountered on Instagram. She actually reminds me of my cousin. She has, I was talking to my son about it yesterday, actually, in the yard. She has the fullest pair of lips I've ever seen. And you know, they used to make fun of her for them their lips, eh? You know what she does? Do you know what she does? She makes lip gloss. Now you know lip gloss. Lil mama says, my lip gloss be popping, my lip gloss be cool. Now when you have something sparkly on your lips, what happens? It makes them appear bigger. Now why? I want you to ponder this. And the level of, I don't want to use the word audacity because that's not the right word, but the level of boldness that she had to cultivate within herself. To know that when you walk down the street, people are making fun of your lips and there's nothing you've done with those lips. Do you know how much money people pay to get those lips? And here she has them naturally, and people who are so as within, so without, unhappy with themselves, they project that onto her. But through all of those tears that she had to cry, and every day, what does she deliberately choose to do? She deliberately chooses to celebrate what her features are. Do you think it started out easy? I would venture to guess that there was some anger in there. Why? Because anger is a fire that moves us. Oh, look at the time. Your girl got to go. Anger is that fire, right? That says, I'm not going to let you make fun of me. Nope. And they got mad and said, no, I will celebrate what I have. And on some level, now this is, and she does have a church background, because when you hear her sing, oh Lord have mercy, that girl, you know, she just was part of the heavenly choir. You just know she's got some mad skills, right? Mm. So I told you that story to tell you this, and listen, she is an incredible storyteller as well. Oh yes, she is, and she has that southern drawl, you know. Bless your heart. She has that southern drawl. That's how she talks. And I have a great admiration for her. Why? Because whether she knows it or not, she's living the law. She can clearly see, but she does not allow it to affect her. She has risen above it. It's not a matter that it is easy for her to rise above it. It is that deliberately she chooses to rise above it. So that now habitually it will always be beneath her. But that takes practice. to form the habit to constantly rise. And she's out here in these streets making money hand over fist with her lip gloss line. And some of us are out here talking about, but I don't know what to do. You start right where you're at with what you have. And I learned that this weekend. I sure did. I sure did. Anywho, let me welcome everybody into the space. And we're going to play the chime because you know this young whippersnapper is going to sing sooner rather than later because he's awake and preening his feathers. And you know, Popcorn is a boy. Oh, Popcorn is a boy. He has not crowed yet, but he is a boy. Oh, yes, he is. Girl, Popcorn is so glorious. I've never seen. Oh, yes. He's got the saddle feathers that males do have. Roosters have a saddle at the back, meaning those feathers at the back, they drape and they blow in the breeze. Because that's what makes them beautiful, right? That's what makes them catch the eye. Popcorn has those. So Shea Butter is in the house. Annie George is in the house. Jeff is in the house kicking it with us right here on YouTube in these YouTube streets. Twitter, well, you know, Twitter is as Twitter is. I can't even get onto Twitter today. He got more money than God himself. But you know what? Ow! I'm all right. Everybody got their problems. But the app is apping for me today, so ow. But here on Fanbase is working today. Hello. But you know what? I see you, Miss Tiffany and Javion. I see you. He may have already gone to school. KZ, I see you. Hello, Michael. Ray, Matthias. Oracle Treehouse. Hey, girl. Oh, Moon and Dolphin Duck. Ah, and the lovely Miss McQueen. I see you all here on Fanbase. I see you. Facebook and Twitter. If you don't stop in the chat and say hello, I don't know that you're there, but I will still recognize you anyhow and say, hey, y'alls. So today, as you go through the day, notice your mental mood. Notice your mental mood. And when you notice your mental mood, know that you have the power. I got the power. You know you have the power to change your mental mood. That's where your power is. That's your superpower. Hello? Don't let what George said trip you up. Don't let what Sue Ann or Betty Lou, don't let that trip you up. Don't let Karen. Listen, I met a lovely young lady at the store. Her name was Linda. I said, hello, Linda. And she spoke and she was Irish. Oh, my word. I said, ooh, you are Irish. She goes, not many people can tell the difference between the Scots and the Irish. And I said, that's because they don't listen. That's why. And we had a great conversation. She said, ooh, we are so alike. I said, I know, right? She goes, we twins. Mm-hmm. And we had a good laugh. We really did. And she helped me do so many things that day. That reminds me, I got to go and give her a great review. But that's what I mean. As within, so without. As within, so without. So what do you have within? What do you have within? Start there. And know that the mood within, you can change it. You can lift it and you can practice. And the more you practice, well, you get good at what you practice. Mm-hmm. And once you get good at what you practice, then that now becomes your what? Your life. Be deliberate, y'all. Be deliberate. Isn't there some kind of be aggressive, be aggressive? Isn't that, didn't I see that on some kind of show? So be deliberate. Be deliberate. What? Be deliberate. Let me get the chime. And I know, Miss Tiffany, you were looking for the X notification, but it would not open for me this morning. It didn't open for me this morning, you know? Because when you open Twitter, and I have the little music thingy, so that when you open Twitter, you start to hear the smooth sounds of jazz on Twitter while the room is not yet open, right? And when you hit the mic and the music stops. Yet that didn't happen. You hit the mic and nothing happened. And I said, I'm not going to fight. I ain't got time to fight with this morning. They ain't nowhere to find me. And you knew where to find me. Right here on Fan Base. So anyhow, my beautiful friends, let me get the chime, because you may get chicken. You may get chicken. And my son made supper yesterday. He made steak and rice. He didn't put any vegetables on the side. He says, well, I didn't know if I felt like vegetables. I said, well, that'll be your next level, to decipher what pairs well with what you've made, your main, what complements. I said, okay, it comes with practice, don't worry. And listen, it was so beautifully done, medium well. Oh, girl. I said, honey, Gordon Ramsay don't have nothing on you. He kept calling me, Mom, can you come? I said, nope. I said, I'm snuggling with my chicken. I am not coming to help you. And he did it all. I was not hovering over him. Nothing. And he sliced it up with the grain and everything. I'm sorry if you are vegan. I'm sorry. But that's what he learned. So I say he has now mastered the art, and he makes perfect rice. Not too hard, not too soft, but perfect, because he has the ratio. 2-1. If you have a cup of rice, you need 2 waters. Hello? The 1 cup, you make it double now, but water. And he has mastered the art. Why? And then he says to me, Mom, it feels good, He sent a picture of it to his friends. And they were like, oh, this is nice. I would eat that. And I said to him, but what if somebody has said to you, ew? I said, it is irrelevant, the opinions of others. You know the truth because you sat there and you ate it. I said, how did it taste? He goes, Mom, it was lit. It was fire. I said, young people. I said, it was real good, wasn't it? I said, so then it doesn't matter who insults or who compliments. You know the truth. That is what you live by, what you know to be true. Right? I'm not preparing him for insults. I'm preparing him to comprehend where they come from. Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. It did not originate with him. It came from someone. That is how they feel. Their inadequacy, not yours. So don't you dare take it on as yours. That's not yours. Now, if somebody that taught me that at a young age, shoot, you think I'd be arguing with people in the streets? No, I wouldn't. But that's for another day. That is for another day. Anyhow, let me get the chime. Where is the chime? I can't see without these glasses. But you know what? I'm working on it. Oh, Lord, hello. Sing it, sweet boy. Good morning, sunshine. Look, I got this chime because you behind the door. Say you guarding the door. Mm. Good morning, sugar. Good morning. Wake up the world, baby. Countdown initiated. 5, 4, 3, 1. Much love to each and every one of you. Fan base, I got 2 minutes. I come and spend 2 minutes with you because I want to get on the road earlier today. But thank you all for being here on this glorious, glorious Monday. And you know I look forward eagerly to seeing you again right here on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, Twitter, and Fanbase. Twitter. Yes, Hunty, I know it is time. We got to go and get those, I can't even say girls anymore. I got to say popcorn and lady. We got to go get them cleaned up and watered and fed, okay? I know. I'm on my way, sugar. I'm on my way. Anywho, I love you all and I look forward to seeing you. And you know, as always, if you got any questions, comments, or concerns, you could slide into my DMs if you so desire. Peace out, everybody. Peace out.